boxing news.
Flyweight and superfly mixed in makes it deeper, but generally the female divisions are quite small, if that makes sense. So I think when we get these fights, we just have to take them. We can't say no, because what else is there? So we just have to take them and just get on with it. I totally agree with you. It is a good fight. You know, irrespective of Chloe coming off of a loss, it doesn't matter. She's a good opponent, and I think it will put me in good stead moving forward. But this is a fight that people want to see. This is a fight that we want as fighters, and I think it's a good fight for Chloe to come back to as well. Yeah, it's a brilliant that it's for a title as well. I think at the beginning there wasn't one on the line, and I just feel like it's a fight that deserves it, in my opinion. Both really good girls coming together, so it's great that they got the IBF Intercontinental on the line. But yeah, get higher ranked and go from there.
She's a good fighter. Yeah, she's a good fighter. Like I said, that's what makes this fight so good, and I feel like that's when you're going to see the best of me. There's not much in the weights, flyweight, super flyweight, do you know what I mean? It's not a massive difference in weight, so I think we've probably always looked at each other as potential opponents. I know obviously as a fighter coming up and stuff like that, you're looking at who's being promoted well elsewhere and stuff like that, and this fight's been a fight that's always excited me. Great domestic fight, and I think it'll live up to the expectations on Friday.
New training team as well. Paul Stevenson, Anthony Humphreys at the Everton Red Triangle. I mean, I love talking to Paul and Ant just about boxing in general when I see them, but I mean, firsthand, how has the new training setup been? Really
good, yeah, they're great teachers. Learned a lot, learned so much already in the short space of time that I've been there, and I'm not just learning from them, but I'm also learning from the lads, just watching them do their thing and that on the bags and sparring, and yeah, it's a great gym to be part of.
Our last look at tomorrow's fight, set to go down in the afternoon. If you're in the United States, young Chloe Watson sports a professional record of 8 wins with 1 loss and no draws, no recorded knockouts, having never been knocked out in 9 professional bouts, coming right off the loss to Poland's Jasmina Sapotoczna.
Picked Jasmina to win that fight, and she did. The outcome of this one is a bit harder to predict. Shannon Ryan sports a professional record of 9 wins with 1 loss and no draws, 1 recorded knockout, having never been knocked out in 10 professional bouts. Currently on a 2-fight winning streak after having suffered a split decision loss to Emma Doolin over a year ago. Over a year later, she's fighting Chloe.
Shannon was last in action in May of this year, so she has seen action in the last 12 months, and the same applies to Chloe Watson.
Chloe fought much.
So neither fighter has any ring rust that they need to shake off. Both have seen action in the last 12 months, and as stated, this is a fight that's hard to predict. It's hard to tell, because both Chloe and Shannon have the same sweet spot. They're about eye level to each other, so the tail of the tape is about the same.
The quality of competition is about the same. They literally share 3 common opponents.
It's just not much between them, and what might separate them on the night might be the difference of a hair.
I will say that I think young Shannon Ryan is the noticeably bigger puncher of the two. I know that Shannon doesn't have a lot of recorded knockouts, but I've seen almost every fight that she's been in, and there's a noticeable difference when she lands a punch to when Chloe lands a punch. Chloe's not a big puncher. She's fast, and she's athletic and aggressive.
But she's not a big puncher. Power, I think, would have to go to Shannon Ryan. Speed, that's about the same. Might be that Chloe Watson has a better engine than Shannon. I've seen Shannon tire in fights.
Yeah, I've seen her slow down as the rounds progress, so maybe Chloe has a better engine.
It's intriguing, but it's also intriguing because Chloe Watson recently enlisted the aid of a new corner. So everything we have seen of her up until this point might change tomorrow, might go about fighting a fight a different way, and I just don't know.
You know, I almost don't want to pick.
The Shannon Ryan would be the house fighter here. She's the matchroom fighter, but being the matchroom fighter, that didn't help her in the Emma Doolin fight, so who says it's going to help her in the Chloe Watson fight?
It's a sink or swim kind of situation. Matchroom, for the very first time, is not the biggest game in town when it comes to women's boxing. They now have MVP to compete with, and all of their ambitious matchmaking. Thus, you're seeing a fight like this, and on the Monte Carlo card, you're seeing a fight between Beatrice Ferreira and Elif Turan.
Putting their girls in sink or swim situations, and I don't know if Shannon is going to sink or if she's going to swim.
I'm going to go with Shannon.
Not going to be a bitch about it. Not going to do it. Ain't going to take no shit.
Gator don't play no shit. You feel me? Gator, never been about that. Never been about playing no shit.
I'm not going to straddle the fence. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go with Shannon and what I think is a 50-50 fight. In men's light heavyweight news, Benavidez versus Yarde pay-per-view price has been set.
Pay-per-view price? I thought this wasn't going to be a pay-per-view.
The November 22nd David Benavidez versus Anthony Yarde DAZN pay-per-view is now available to purchase for £24 in the United Kingdom and $59.99 in the United States. It was previously announced that Ring events would no longer be pay-per-view, starting with this one.
Gator don't play no shit.
In relation to this story, DAZN is set to launch the Ring Magazine Pass in November. DAZN will introduce a new premium subscription in November, which will include all pay-per-view events. There are expected to be around 15 pay-per-view events annually that will be included in the new subscription, including Benavidez versus Yarde. Of course, that's very different from what they said a few months ago, that they were moving away from pay-per-view, starting in November.
Pay-per-view doesn't seem to have gone anywhere. Not if you don't subscribe to this premium pass. And how much more is that going to set subscribers back? If you're already paying for a DAZN subscription, monthly or annually, how much more is this going to cost?
I'm an annual subscriber. I don't do the month-to-month. It comes out cheaper if you pay for the year. So yearly, I'm paying about $225 for an annual subscription. This premium pass, how much more is that going to cost me? Are we approaching the neighborhood of $300 a year?
This is not the way.
So let me say that I look at Ring 4, Ring Magazine 4 as a card, and I see a card that is box office worthy, that is pay-per-view worthy.
In a very general sense, this card is even more pay-per-view worthy than any of David Benavidez's previous pay-per-view appearances in the Caleb Plant pay-per-view, the Demetrius Andrade pay-per-view, the more recent David Morrell pay-per-view, this undercard.
In a manner of speaking, this is still value for money because this is a much, much stronger undercard than any of David's undercards in the past, and it is cheaper. It's $69.99 as opposed to $75.99.
They still lied.
And that's the nature of the problem. Even if this card in its entirety is box office worthy, it was Turkey LL Sheik himself that said they were moving away from pay-per-view starting here, where now it seems like they're not moving away from it, they're moving towards it. 15 pay-per-views annually.
Let me jog your memory. It was Turkey LL Sheik that said, "Great meeting with my brother, Shay Segev, CEO of DAZN. We have a big vision to grow boxing and decide. No more pay-per-view, starting with our Ring Magazine show in November. All Riyadh season and the Ring events will be free to DAZN subscribers. The pay-per-view model has damaged boxing, and we will no longer support it. We are with the fight fans."
That was the story months ago. Months later, we're seeing this. 15 pay-per-views annually. So how much will it set the customer back to get this premium membership and avoid having to pay per view? How much more on top of what they are already paying? We don't know yet. It's set to launch next month. If it's something marginal, like say $20 on top of the membership, maybe $30.
Buddy, that is wishful thinking.
Turkey LL Sheik wasn't wrong when he said that pay-per-view has damaged boxing, that the model is antiquated and they need to start moving away from it. He wasn't wrong there. You can't expect boxing fans to have to go into their pocket that many times in a calendar year and grow the sport. And this is just what they're doing on DAZN. 15 pay-per-views? What about everybody else?
What about the PBC? They do pay-per-view almost exclusively. And what about Top Rank? If and when they come back, how do we know they won't do pay-per-views of their own?
I at least thought Turkey understood by now that in order to grow the sport of boxing and return it to the mainstream, you don't do more box office fights, more pay-per-views. The real strength in boxing is in the regular schedule and making boxing more accessible to that many more people. But if you're doing more fights that are behind more paywalls, well, that's the opposite. And even if Benavidez versus Yarde is a strong enough card that you can bill it as a pay-per-view, you shouldn't have got our hopes up.
Upwards of 15 pay-per-views annually. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that more than before? And if you're doing more pay-per-views than you did before in a calendar year.
There are only 12 months in a calendar year. If you plan on doing 15 of them, that means that at least for a few of those months, you're going to be doing more than one pay-per-view. But who do you expect to buy them?
They weren't buying them before. The boxing market has spoken, and the market itself is moving away from the pay-per-view model, even if the industry people aren't. The boxing fans are.
I'm going to buy the pay-per-view, I won't lie to you about that. But I have to see what this premium subscription is going to cost on top of what I've been already paying. And if it's value for money, I'll just say it's value for money. And if it's a ripoff, I'll say it's a ripoff.
I'm going to give it to you straight, because it's the only way I know how to give it to you. But Turkey...
Don't lie to me. That's what you said. You telling me I'm a liar? You didn't say suck my dick, bitch. That's not what you said to me. So I'm lying.
Here I thought that we were on the eve of a new era of boxing when it's looking more and more like more of the same.
In boxing, the majority of the revenue from the show goes to the fighter. In MMA, the majority of the revenue from the show goes to the promoter. Good luck to him. I wouldn't moan, but that's not how we work in boxing. And I'm not interested in a fake belt. I'm not interested in changing the Muhammad Ali Act. I'm not interested in changing the shape of the ring or the rules. What I'm interested in is the greatness of the sport of boxing. And what you're looking at here is the greatness of the sport of boxing. I want to see fighters like Boots, who I believe can go down as generational greats, like Hagler, like Hearns, like Whittaker, like all these great fighters. He is of the same ability. And our belts matter.
What about the belts? They want to have their own belt. The Zuffa boxing belt. They're not going to have WBC title fights, WBA. They don't want to recognize those. And then there are others, like we had Eddie on, what was it, last week, where he's like, no, like there is no fighter in my stable that wants to be the Matchroom champion. They all want to be WBC champion.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta understand, Ali held WBA.
Yeah.
Ali held the WBC. Mike Tyson had the IBF. Duran, like legendary fighters held these belts for many, I don't know how much years them belts been around.
Yeah, some
I'm not
decades.
a fan. I'm not a fan of. If anything, I'm not a fan of new belts.
Right.
There's already enough.
Yeah.
So, you know, the Ring Magazine, the WBC, WBA, WBO,
IBF. Those are the four main ones.
Yeah, and even in the IBO.
Yeah.
IBO, that's still a good belt that's been around. You know, put some it'll be good on your resume. But we can't tamper with boxing. Boxing's been around for so many years. It's like somebody buying the NFL and saying, we're not gonna have the Lombardi Trophy no more.
Yeah.
We're gonna name it the Danny Garcia Trophy. People like, we ain't trying to hear that. You know what I mean? So it's like, leave boxing alone, man. Just it's been around for, I mean.
This is funny. I mean, this is comedy to me. Because in recent years, you've seen an uptick of fighters saying that the belts don't actually matter. Ryan Garcia has said that more than once. And we know that belts don't matter to Gervonta Davis, which is why he never unified any of them. He never actually went for undisputed. So that all of a sudden, the belts start to matter once Dana White is involved. Once Dana White is set to enter into the boxing space. What is it really?
The belts matter.
Even if they don't matter much to some fighters, they do matter to others, and more importantly, they matter to the market. They matter to the consumer, the boxing fans. The boxing fans, most of them, they want to see those belts collected, they want to see those belts unified, they want to see those belts defended.
Believe it or not, the belts actually matter. The boxing fans and the belt organizations have a love and hate relationship. But in a sport that prides itself so much on its lineage and its history,
the belts matter. They do. They actually matter. And the fighters in this era that will be remembered, the vast majority of them, are the fighters who unified all of those belts. Alexander Usyk, Naoya Inoue, Terence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez.
Those are the guys that are going to be remembered.
So as wide-eyed and naive as it might sound, the belts actually do matter to boxing's marketability, boxing's appeal, and that poses a potential challenge for Dana White and his Zuffa Boxing because they're going to have their own belt. And a lot of boxing fans, they're not going to qualify that shit.
Jada, never been about that. Never been about playing no shit.
Dana White's approach to combat sports centers around branding and strengthening the brand more than the talent, more than the fighter. And that goes over well in the biosphere of the UFC, but in boxing, which is a lot more expansive.
Boxing has a much more rich history than just mixed martial arts. As a product and as a sport, boxing's lineage goes back even further. Its history is a part of its marketability.
How does Dana White circumvent this potential challenge, work around it, since he wants to have his own belt and keep everything baked in? The quality of the fights, I think, has a lot to do with that. If he's putting on entertaining and competitive fights, the belts...
People will forget about the belts if they are entertained by what they're watching. People will forget that there's not a bunch of alphabet organizations all involved in what fights he's putting on, so long as those fights are compelling fights, entertaining fights. Don't underestimate the power of entertainment, since that's what this is all about.
We're supposed to be entertained. And if Dana can achieve that with his 400 or 450 boxers in the Zuffa boxing stable, you never know.
That's what people are critical of, though. That you're going to have an organization where the promoter is in charge of the belt, is in charge of the ranks. People believe this poses a conflict of interest.
A Twitter user that goes by the name Carla Duran said, I'll repeat, a regulatory body that aligns with promoters no longer serves the sport it is entrusted to protect.
A regulatory body? Regulatory body like the WBA that's been doing favors for the PBC for how long now?
Gilberto Mendoza basically admitted that at the last WBA convention, that they've been playing nice with TGB boxing all this time, did them favors and supported them.
TGB, which is just another way of saying PBC.
Carla, I hate to break the news to you, but if what you're afraid of is that a regulatory body is too close to the promotional outfits in the sport of boxing, well, that's already going on. That's already happening. It's been happening. So Zuffa boxing
should be the least of your worries.
I'm skeptical as to how successful Zuffa boxing will be, but I'm willing to see. I am willing to give it a chance. I believe that there is room for Zuffa within the boxing space and their alternative approach.
That doesn't mean it's going to work. That doesn't mean it isn't.
But spare me all of the fanavism. Boxing fans that have taken a liking to activism. If you really cared about this stuff, you wouldn't have turned a blind eye to what's already been going on in boxing for many years now.
It's funny what I've been seeing. All these people so all of a sudden concerned with the Muhammad Ali Act and what amendments are being made to it, which is tantamount to worrying about zoning permits for a house that's on fire.
They're not making any subtractions to the Ali Act. They're making additions, like you might want to make additions to your house. To do that, you need zoning permits.
But what if the house is on fire? What if the house is on the verge of falling apart?
Worrying about zoning permits would be a redundancy in that situation, and that's what this is. A redundancy. Boxing in America is in trouble. I reiterate, all the major networks have pulled out. The TV money is gone.
Without the TV money, how do you get boxing on TV? How do you get a regular schedule of fights? You don't.